Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, new to Necrons, where to start? Yes, this video is aimed towards people that are just starting out with Necrons, maybe need some advice. I've been playing Necrons now for about 15 years, so I've got some good experience, and I'm just going to run through a few Necron things with you. Now, of course, this is just my experience, my opinions, and it's not the be and end all, so you know, please feel free to get advice from other people as well, of course, because it's all just personal preference. Okay, so I know that you may be watching this video as like an archive, so just for reference, we are talking about this codex here, the hardback edition, and the 7th edition Warhammer 40k rulebook. Okay, so you've decided to play Necrons. For whatever reason, I started playing Necrons because of the picture on the front of the codex, not this one of course, the really old one. It's like a black codex. Really like the picture, and I chose Necrons. Now, whatever reason you've chosen to play Necrons, you're obviously here for some advice, and that's what I'm hoping to give you. And then the most common question I ask is basically where to start in terms of models. You know, what models should I get to start me up? I'm looking for like 500 points, and then I want to expand from there. And a lot of people will tell you that Necrons are, let's say, overpowered, or a top tier codex, or broken even. I'd like to reflect on that as a long time Necron player. Now, when I first started playing Necrons, Necrons were actually very, very powerful in those days. They were probably actually almost top tier codex. And the reason for that is that they had great saves. I mean, Necron Warriors had a 3+ save, and they had what they used to call a Will Be Back, which is now called obviously Reanimation Protocol, or RP for short, and that was a 4+ RP roll, so they were having a 3+ save and a 4+ save. There were many restrictions, things like you had to be within 6 inches of a resurrection orb, you had to have another unit of the same type on the table, and they had a big disadvantage at the time of if your enemy killed 75% of your army, you phased out, your army disappeared. But once you worked around those finicky little bits and pieces of the army was incredibly durable and very, very good. I mean, Ghaul's weapons have always been really good. I mean, they're really good now. They went through a stage and not quite so good. Now they're really good, and that's how they used to be in the old days. So just to clarify what that means, so with a Ghaul's gun, no matter what strength your gun is, if you roll a 6 to wound, you can wound anything regardless of its toughness on a 6, and also you can glance a vehicle on a 6 automatically regardless of the armour. And that's how it used to be. They did change it slightly where it couldn't hurt infantry, it could only hurt vehicles on 6s, but it's now back to where it used to be. Anyway, don't want to go on about this too long, but what I'm trying to say is that I think Necrons are exactly where they should be. They should be a very durable army on the table, and we're talking about ancient old robots which can regenerate and walk across the board like a massive army of basically Terminators that are very, very difficult to kill. And that's exactly what they are. So it's really nice to see. I played that original codex that I had, the black one I was talking about, for 10 years without any updates, watching all the other codexes getting better and better and better, and my Necron codex getting worse and worse and worse. So I, for one, am very pleased to see Necrons back where they should be. Okay, so where do you start? Well, there's actually 2 directions that you can go with Necrons, and it depends what you want to get from the army. So, if your aim is to have a cool looking army, to use specific units that you really like from the army, let's say, oh, I really like the Catan, you know, like the Nightbringer, I want the Nightbringer in my army, and that's absolutely fine. You know, basically just buy the units that you want to buy. You know, take some troops, warriors or immortals, take the units that you want to take, your Star Guards, etc., and just run with that. So Necrons are still very good, just playing what you want basically. But if you want to get the most from the army, if you want to make the army the best that you can get it, then I seriously suggest you look at the Decurion detachment. Now the Decurion detachment is, let me just show you that in the book. Basically that chart there, it's one of the new sort of styles of creating an army. It has lots of limitations but lots of advantages. And going back to what we were actually talking about, which is starting out with Necrons. Let's say you want to make a 500-point Necron list, you know, where do you start? Then I think using this as your base is a fantastic way to start out. Excuse me, right. So, how and why is this good? Well, the Decurion is good because it has some great special rules. So basically, any of your units that if you stick to the Decurion, any of your units that have the RP special rule, they gain +1 to your RP roll. So outside of the Decurion, if you took just your normal FOCs, etc., you get a 5+ RP. In the Decurion, that's a 4+ RP roll. That's awesome, just right there. Plus, any of your units or your tanks basically that have the living metal special rule. Now the living metal special rule ignores crew stunned and shaken results on a dice roll if you take outside of the Decurion. If you have it inside the Decurion, then you automatically ignore those results. Now you do still take the whole point, but you ignore the results, which is really, really good. So that's the main plus point of actually taking the Decurion itself. Now, to take the Decurion, you need to start off with a core unit, and that basically is the Reclamation Legion. And this is the formation within the formation that is the one you need to work on when you're first building your army. So starting off, you have your HQ, which is an Overlord. You can exchange the Overlord for a special character like Nemesis, for example, and although Nemesis is very good, I'd actually recommend you start with an Overlord really in the first outing to get used to the models. The Overlord is just a good stock character to have. I'd recommend you probably take him with a Warpsci. Warpscis are pretty good, and AP2, a Strength 7 AP2 Warpsci. You can't go wrong with it really. The Starford Light is still pretty good if you want to keep the points cheap. He's basically as a shooting attack, 3 shots, Strength 5 AP3, pretty reasonable, but personally for 10 points I'd take the Warpsci. So that would be your starting block. Now I wouldn't take all the extra additional war gear to start with. Again, as you're starting out, my recommendation is always to take no war gear and then add on your war gear as you play, as you find out what you need, rather than taking all the war gear, having like a 200 point HQ and not using half of the war gear. So it makes sense to start small, start cheap, and work up with the war gear that you discover that you need for your particular gaming group and the armies that you play against. So that would be your HQ. Now you have to have 2 units of warriors, but you can have up to 8 units of warriors. If your starting point would be 2 units of 10, that's the minimum requirement, and that's 130 points for each unit of 10, which is quite cheap considering how good they are. They do only have a 4+ save, but with your 4+ RP, they're still pretty good. I mean, if you can keep them in cover, you'll get your normal 4+ save and potentially a cover save if you're being hit with AP4 or better weapons, plus you get your 4+ RP save. The only stipulation to that would be if you're being instant deathed, if you're being hit with a weapon which is strength 8 or more, then your RP roll goes down to a 5+. In the Decurion, that would be a 6+ if you're outside of the Decurion. So good stock troops, and To go alongside that, you do have to take at least 1 unit of Immortals as compulsory, and I personally would say start off with a unit of 5. The Immortals have a 3+ save, and they have a slightly stronger gun, a strength 6 gun. But that's a good unit to put your Overlord with, quite durable with that 3+ save, even though you've only got 5 models. So that is your compulsory units, along with a unit of Tomb Blades. Now the Tomb Blades, you've got quite a few options with the Tomb Blades. I would suggest, if you're keeping the points down, then a basic unit of 3 Tomb Blades, maybe take 1 upgrade for them, probably would take the +1 to cover save, so that if you jink you get a 3+ cover save, which is really, really awesome. So Tomb Blades are nice and fast, they're good to get line breaker, they're good for a little distraction unit if played like that. Alternatively, you could take a bigger unit, you can give them the little small blast weapon, which is a strength 6 blast. That's pretty good. The disadvantage, if you jink, you can't shoot that gun, and you can't shoot it in Overwatch, but it is a pretty good gun once you get those shots off. So you've got options with the Tomb Blades. You can have them small and cheap, you can have them big and powerful. That's up to you. But just taking those core units that I've just mentioned, that adds up to around 500 points. And that's a fantastic starting point, I would suggest, for a Necron army. Now, as you expand, let's say as you move up to 1,000 points, I would suggest maintaining the Reclamation Legion and building up that. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but let's just explain a little bit more about the Decurion itself. So once you've got your Reclamation Legion, you can take up to 10 auxiliary units. Now the auxiliary units are a little bit limited, let's say, compared to the rest of the codex, and I can totally understand why someone would not take the Decurion and take the other units as and when they want. The choices are the Star Guard, which is the C'tans, Flayed Ones, Death Marks. Now Death Marks and Flayed Ones are pretty good. Flayed Ones are excellent in the assault. Death Marks are a nice distraction unit. Star Guards, they are usable but not necessarily the best choice. So those are your individual units, and then there's 6 formations that you can take. You can basically pick and choose up to 10 of these. Now the 2 standout formations is the Canoptic Harvest, which is your Wraiths, Tomb Spider and Scarab Swarms, and the Tomb Spider gives it all the units within 12 inches. Special rules are their choice, and the most popular one of course is RP. And that will be a 4+ in the Decurion. It's very powerful and probably the best formation within the Decurion. The second probably best formation would be, well, it'd be a combination of the Judicator Battalion, which is basically a Triarch Stalker and 2 units of Praetorians. Now I've not used that formation, but it is very good formation. I do plan on using it. But the Destroyer Cult is also another good one, and if you specifically want or like the Destroyer Lord, which I know a lot of people like the Destroyer Lord model, that's a good way to take him. It's a fair amount of points because you've got to have 3 units of Destroyers and a Destroyer Lord, and if you do take that formation, the Destroyer Lord can quite easily go in with the Death Marks, which we'll talk about individual tactics like that maybe in the future if I don't keep knocking the table. Okay, so back to the Reclamation Legion, back to taking or beefing up your points. So I would seriously expand on the Reclamation Legion to give you a nice core amount of units to choose from. So the options are taking more foot troops, so taking more warriors, taking more immortals, or taking transports for those troops. So you could take Ghost Arcs for the warriors. Now if you're going to take Ghost Arcs for the warriors, it's a choice. Of course you could maybe take 1 Ghost Arc for 1 squad of warriors, have the other one on foot. The Ghost Arc is very good at helping foot warriors because it regenerates their wounds, or regenerates the models. but then one tank by itself isn't that great, because it's going to be easily targeted by your enemy with all of their anti-tank weaponry. So I'd actually suggest you take 2 Ghost Arcs. So 2 Ghost Arcs with the group of warriors, and then there's no point taking Ghost Arcs if you don't really have any foot warriors. So then I'd probably take a group of foot warriors, put your Overlord in with the foot warriors, makes that unit very powerful. Both Ghost Arcs can regenerate warriors, 3 warriors each a turn. You've got to roll for it, of course. And then we get what I like to call the super flanks, which is an army style which I've previously posted about. Just search on YouTube or on my channel for it. So one option. The other option is to go for Night Scythes. I wouldn't necessarily put my warriors in Night Scythes, but you could then start putting your immortals in the Night Scythes. Quite nice to have a fast moving troops choice. They can disembark, it's got good firepower, and can disembark on obviously objectives, etc. And of course the actual Night Scythe is a pretty decent flyer as well. So to actually consider expanding the Reclamation Legion with either tanks, not necessarily one. For me it's all or nothing, so you either go out all out for some tanks for your army, or you go all out and gain more foot troops. Either way, both of those options is a great way to go. If you want to throw in an auxiliary unit, like say some flayed ones, then that's not a bad choice. But that's how I will build my army up from 500 points to 1000 points in either one of those directions. Now once you get to around 1000 points of those type of units, then you've got a fantastic core army to build on as you go up to say 1500 points, 1750, 1850 or 2000 points. So once you're there, then once you're at that 1000 point level, you can then start adding on the powers, the units which are going to be powerful and complement your army. And that's things like the Kinetic Harvest. Wraiths, absolutely awesome. 3+, invulnerable save, 2 wounds, toughness 5. Beasts, rending, can be really good in the assault, can not be so good in the assault. It does depend on your dice rolls, but they're very good at holding up any units because they have that 3+ invulnerable save. And although yes, they can be instant death and deed, etc., they're your best unit to hold up stuff. So the Kinetic Harvest is definitely something that I would consider bolting on to my 1000 point list. Potentially the Destroyer Cult formation, the one with the Triarch Stalker. If you want to throw in Star Guards, although they're not the most, let's say, best value in points wise, the Necrons are very durable and flexible, that you can afford to put in units which maybe aren't the best points wise. So if you fancy your Nightbringer, you can still put your Nightbringer in there if you want to. And like I say, death marks, they do definitely have some options. Deep striking in, you can deep strike in on your enemy's turn, which is great if you've got the Destroyer Lord, because you can deep strike in your enemy's turn, and then the next turn, although the death marks can't do anything, your Destroyer Lord can actually come away from the unit and then assault, because it's not the same turn that he's deep striked in. So there's some fantastic tactical options with the death marks. Living Tomb formation, you've probably seen in my archives, I've got that, I've used that, that's a nice fun formation, and there's some good fun formations within the Reclamation Legion stroke Decurion. So that's it in a nutshell. So you're probably asking, well, why is anyone not taking this? And there's several reasons. I've already mentioned one reason, and that's because people just want to play specific armies of their choice. They're not really worried about having the most competitive, the most best list. So that's one option. The other thing is that there is a big disadvantage to taking the Decurion, and that is you do not get objectives secured on your troops. You do lose that. Now the way I look at it is I may not get objectives secured, but my troops will be around for much longer because of the 4+ RP save. So I'm going to be a lot more durable. I can surround my objectives easier and for longer. And yes, occasionally you will get caught out, and you will get objectives taken from you because you're not objective secured. But I think all in all, generally on the whole, I'd rather have a 4+ RP on all of my RP models than objective secure. And the third thing, which is what I personally experienced as well, is that you are limited on the models that you can take in the Decurion. Now I think the Decurion reflects Necrons very, very well. I think it's very themed. I think that it's how Necrons is supposed to be played with the units that you get and how they play within the Decurion. But it's not the be and end all. You know, sometimes you just want to take some of the other units that aren't in there. And that's a reason why people tend to step out of the Decurion. And even with a 5+ RP, still pretty good. You know, Necrons are still fantastic outside the Decurion, but in the Decurion they're the creme of the creme. And yes, we love them. So we love the Decurion. We love it. Of course, I am a Necron fanboy, and you know, I'm sure that some people will hate Necrons for what they are and how they play on the table, and like, they just don't die. That's great. As far as I'm concerned, I love it. I love my Necrons. I think it's a fantastic army. And I hope this video's just given you a little bit of an extra help in building your first Necron army. I potentially will be making more videos if you like this one. If there's anything specific that I've mentioned in this video that you think maybe I could expand on, or is there any specific thing that you would like me to talk about, then let me know in the comments box below. Please like, comment and share, and thanks for watching, because without you watching this video I wouldn't be making more. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching.